Hi everyone. We're going to start the recipe off with making the filling, which is potato and onion. I've got here a couple of russet potatoes, which is the size that we need. This is about somewhere between 1.25 pounds and 1.5 pounds of russet potatoes. And once you peel them, you've got the right amount of potato that you need for the recipe. I also have a very large yellow onion. Now I like a lot of onion in our knishes because I think it really adds the flavor that is such a traditional knish. So I use a lot of onion. Now we also have a choice for the fat that you're going to use to saute the onions. We don't make them too often. So when I do, I like to use the traditional fat, which is schmaltz. Now you don't have to worry about taking the fat from a bunch of chickens over time to get the amount of fat that you need for the recipe. Our friends at Empire have already done it for you. You can get this at Price Choppers. I don't know whether all Price Choppers have them, but I do know that the Price Chopper in Colony, in their frozen section of the kosher section, does have it because that's where I got this. So those are the three main ingredients we have in the filling: potatoes, onions, and the fat, which in our case is going to be schmaltz. Now to save some time, I've already made the potato portion of the filling. All you do is you peel the potatoes, you cut them into large chunks, boil them in water for about 20 minutes, drain them, and then you just mash them with nothing else in it, just the potatoes. All right, and that's what you have here, already mashed, all ready to go. So the next stage will be, we're going to add the next part of our filling. I'm going to take 6 tablespoons of schmaltz. Okay, now I'm going to put it on a medium heat. This will take probably just a couple minutes to be able to bring ourselves up to temperature. Now again, for time savings, I've already chopped the onions to get them ready. And you don't have to dice them finely. It's a very rough chop, as you can see here. And again, it looks like a lot, but once you begin to cook them and saute them, it's going to come down a lot. So we'll wait for our schmaltz to begin to melt, and then we'll add our onions to it. In fact, we'll go ahead and add them right now. Okay, as you can see, as I said, there's a lot of onions here, and we're just going to start to saute them over a medium heat in the schmaltz. Okay, I think we're going to stop the video right here so that I can saute the onions until we get them to the stage where they're caramelized. And I don't think you want to sit here for 20 minutes or so as I do that. So we'll stop the video right here. Thanks. See you soon. Hi everybody, welcome back. And as you can see, 35 minutes later, the onions are caramelized. There's this beautiful golden brown color, and oh, I just wish you could smell the aroma. It's too bad, as they say, they haven't invented smell-o-vision. Whenever I make this, my wife Susan says that the aroma reminds her of home. Susan was born and raised in Brooklyn on a block street, Whitty Lane, off of Kings Highway in East Flatbush. And her elementary school, PS 208, was very close to her home. And so she had the opportunity to come home for lunch. And her grandmother, her maternal grandmother, lived with her and her parents. And when she came home for lunch, one of the meals that Susan loved was potatoes fried in schmaltz with onions. And so this aroma brings her back to those childhood days. Anyway, the onions are done. I didn't mention in the first segment, if you or your cardiologist doesn't want to use schmaltz, you can certainly use extra virgin olive oil or a combination of extra virgin olive oil and schmaltz. So that's an alternative to going with the traditional schmaltz. So as you remember, I had already made the mashed potatoes, and I've added the salt and white pepper to them at this point. And all we're going to do is we're going to just add the caramelized onions and schmaltz to the potatoes. And so then, okay, we've got them all added. And then we're just going to mix the potatoes with the schmaltz. And so that you get all of that lusciousness of the flavors of the onions and the schmaltz totally mixed into the potatoes. This just takes a minute or so. Okay, so we're just about done now making the filling here. And next we'll be making the dough for the knishes. So I'll be back in a minute to take you through that process. Bye-bye. Welcome back. Now we're going to be making the dough. Now, I'm using a food processor for this. You can certainly do it by hand with a mixing bowl and a wooden spoon. I've done it both ways, but the food processor gives you the easiest way to do it. Anyway, I've got it already in the food processor. I've got the 2 cups of bread flour, the teaspoon of baking powder, and the salt from the recipe already in here. I'm just going to pulse it a couple times just to get those mixed. And then I'm going to put it on the dough setting. I have that option here. If you don't have it on your food processor, you can just put the food processor on. And so I'm going to put it on, and then I'm going to slowly add the oil, the water, and the large egg to the food processor. Now, rather than putting those in individually, as you can see, I put them in, I'll turn that off, it's a little loud. I put them into a large measuring cup, a quart measuring cup, and added the ½ cup of water, added the ½ cup of canola oil and the large egg, and then just whisked them together so that I didn't have to worry about adding them individually. It doesn't make any difference. Okay, I'm going to put it on just for another second or two on the dough setting, and I'll be right back. Okay, as you could see, the dough began to coalesce into an actual ball, and that's great. So now I'm going to take it out, but for safety's sake, always unplug your food processor so you have no... Now I've just got a dough blade in here. It's not a sharp blade, it's plastic, but I think it's just a good safety idea to take and turn the electricity to the food processor off. Now, make sure you get all of the dough that's in there. Okay, as you can see, it's a fairly moist dough, and that's okay. And all you have to do then, and this is going to be a waiting time, just put it into either a plastic bowl or a glass bowl, and just like that. Get a little bit more here that I missed. Okay, and then all you have to do is cover it either with plastic wrap, or in this case I've got a top for this. Put it on your kitchen counter, walk away for an hour. Just let it be. Also, I didn't show it in the last segment, but you put the mashed potato onion mixture into the refrigerator, and so it allows that to cool down after adding the schmaltz mixture to it, and so that way you're kind of efficient in terms of using your time. So the next segment will actually be making the knishes. We'll see you then. Okay, we're coming into the home stretch now. So we've made our filling. We made our dough. I now add to this step a beaten egg. And so it's been about an hour now since first made the dough. Pat it out into somewhat of a rectangular shape. But then what we're going to do is we're just going to cut it in half. Okay, using a handy pizza cutter. If not, if you don't have one of those, that's fine. You can just use a sharp knife. Okay. Put this to the side for just a second, and we're going to just dust our counter with some flour, spread it around so that our dough doesn't stick. Okay, all right, and then just gently add a little flour to the dough itself before you begin rolling it out. Try to keep it in somewhat of a rectangular shape, but it doesn't make that much difference because we'll cut it into a rectangular shape. Okay, so there we go. You just begin rolling it out. Flour on our rolling pin. All right. Okay. Roll it out. Okay. You want to roll it out so you're beginning. You want to get it thin enough so that you're beginning to see somewhat through the dough. All right, just lift it gently to make sure you're not sticking. Okay. Okay. Then we're going to use our handy pizza cutter again and just trim it so that we're in a rectangular shape. Certainly don't throw that dough away. We'll save that and reuse it. Okay. All right. Now, I'm just going to roll it again, slightly. Again, thin enough so you can begin to see through it to the surface below. Okay, again, we want to make sure it's not sticking. Okay, that's not bad. Okay, now we take some of our potatoes and we create a log of potatoes, just like this. And you bring it in about an inch from the edge. And make it about an inch high. Okay. And leave a little bit of dough on the ends. Nope. That noise you hear in the background is my oven preheating to 375, which is what we're going to bake the knishes at. Okay, and then you begin to roll the dough over the potatoes and just kind of stretch it a bit. And the reason you leave some dough at the end is because you want to seal that. You want to kind of seal that in. Okay, and now we're ready. We roll, and you make it tight. Make the dough tight as you roll. Okay. Do it another time. Roll. And again, make it tight. Oops, starting to come out on the end here a little bit. We didn't seal it enough. Seal it here. Again, make it the dough tight against it. Okay, and then one more time. Oh, no, wait a minute. I was wrong on that. I'm going to cut it again. And again, we're going to save our dough. Okay, and then we're going to take a pastry brush. And I've got a beaten egg here. And then we're just going to paint that dough edge. And the reason we're doing that is that's going to seal the dough so that it doesn't break loose. Now, don't be surprised even with this step that some of the knishes may break through. And then we fold it over. And again, we kind of stretch it. Stretch it and press it against the remaining dough. Okay, and we've sealed our ends. Now, how do we take this and make it into our knishes? Let's just kind of straighten it out and kind of make it even as much as possible. Okay. Now, if you had a chance to read the recipe, you'll notice I talk about form your hand into a karate chop. And you must have thought, what in blazes is he talking about with that? Well, here's what I'm going to show you. It's really a way to help seal the knishes. And here's what I mean. You take it, press it down. You make it about 2 inches to 2.5 inches. Press it down. Press it down. This one's going to be a little shorter. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're going to take again our handy pizza cutter, and where we did that, we're going to cut them. Okay, and then what we will do is we'll turn them on their sides, and we begin to press it down. Now the bottom is really already somewhat sealed because we had done that karate chop. All right. Now I'm making appetizer or hors d'oeuvre sized knishes here. If you would like to make what I refer to as the hockey puck size knishes, then all you do is you make this piece larger than the 2.5. Maybe you make it double the size Maybe you make it about 5 inches. Same process. You turn it over, you seal, continue to seal that bottom, set it upright, press it down, and you'd like to have the dough covering the filling on both ends. Again, turn it over, make sure that it's sealed on the bottom, stand it up, make it sealed on the top, press it down, okay, same thing. Turn it on the bottom, make sure your bottom's sealed, make sure the top is sealed, and just kind of press it down into the Knish shape. As I say, if you want to make those hockey puck sizes, all you do is you just use your karate chop at maybe a 5-inch interval rather than the 2.5 that I'm using for these hors d'oeuvre size. Okay. All right. Now that's a little. Now the last step, well, not exactly the last step, but one of the things you may want to do is make a little dimple in the top, just using your finger. And the reason you do that is that sometimes we'll see if it happens with any of these, the potatoes do actually push their way through in the baking process, up through the dough. So you have like a little mountain of filling that pops up through it. This can, by putting that little dimple in there, that kind of helps it from doing that. Okay, now what I've also done over here is I've taken a baking sheet, or you could use a cookie sheet too, and put parchment paper on it. That way I don't have to worry about spraying it. It's much easier to use. And just take your Knishes, place them on, we lost our dimple, place them on the dish, you know, maybe a couple inches apart. Okay. Now I'm not going to do the rest of the dough. I'll finish that later after I've completed the video. I'm just going to stop it here. I think you get the idea of the process. Now what we do is we're going to take this and we're going to put it in the refrigerator. And the reason you do that is that helps the egg that you use to seal the Knishes to act like a glue, and it just solidifies closing the dough around the filling. So again, that's the last step in putting it together and ready for first the refrigerator, and then we'll come back for the final step of preparation before we put them into the oven. All right, see you soon. Okay, we're getting ready into now the final stage of the preparation, which is the baking. I wasn't sure about how the camera was that close or not for you to be able to see, so I'm going to bring these a little closer just so that you begin to see how you seal the dough around it. And this is why you do the karate chop, because it begins to seal the dough on the bottom. Okay, before we pop them into the oven, and some people do this, some people don't. I take it in an egg wash using your pastry brush and just paint them. Now why do I do that? Because it gives a nice golden sheen to the knishes, or any baked goods that you would do this with, as it bakes. Okay. Do it well, all around it. Do it liberally on each one. Okay, now that we've done that, and again we put it on parchment paper, and then all we do is we take it and we put it into our 375-degree preheated oven, and then we just wait for about 35 minutes, actually 25 to 35 minutes. I would suggest that maybe halfway through you turn the baking sheet, and we'll be back to see what the final product looks like. All right, take care, and we'll see you in a few minutes. Well, here they are, freshly out of the oven, and as you can see, they're a beautiful golden brown and quite hot, as a matter of fact. So all you have to do now is just let them cool, and you can either eat them warm or at room temperature, either one. And typically you'd have them with a good deli mustard, and I've used Nathan's. That's pretty good. You might find others that are of your choice, but here they are, finished knishes. And so I hope that this has been helpful to you, and get out there and bake some knishes. Take care now. Bye-bye.